So let's go to Blender. All right, so in this video, the last video I made, I showed this kind of like Aladdin-y lamp, and I showed you how to make bump maps to make like patterns, like intricate patterns. So in just to remind you of what it was, I have two of them here. I'll get that in a second. Just to remind you, I'm going to be specifically talking about like this patterny stuff. And in the video that I showed you last time, I showed you that I had downloaded this kind of random vector drawing off the internet, and it's being used to make the illusion of some kind of a pattern. So I also showed you that this was called a bump map, and that the model, even though in a render it looks like it has texture, the model actually does not have any of this. So this is what the model looks like. It is actually all fake texture. It's a bump map which gives the illusion that it's being pushed out. But the actual model has none of that. And if you go and you print this, it will just look like this. So for example, if you wanted to have all these patterns and details and everything like that, and you made your model like this, and this is awesome, and then you go and you print it, and then it just looks like that. And you're like, what happened to all the detail? So today I'm going to show you how to actually use something called displacement to actually make real details that will print. So if I go back and I zoom out, I have these two Aladdin lamps. They're exactly the same thing. The only difference is if I go to my non-color view, this one actually has the detail, and it will print like this, and you'll see it. Of course, this is just some random Aladdin stupid lamp, but it could be any kind of detail. So this is used all the time. So now this will print like this, and this won't. So what's the difference? They seem to look exactly the same. Aha, but they're not. This one uses what we called a bump map, which is this fake texture. So the bump map, as I showed in the video before, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, you should go check out the other video about using texture maps that are imported. This is a bump node, which is connected to the normal node. If I just disconnect that, there's nothing, because this is giving the illusion of texture. So the actual map that I'm using, as I described in the last video, is just this black and white map. In a bump map, wherever is white is pushed out, wherever is black is pushed in. And since my map has the reverse, I go to I plug in my bump node and I pressed invert. So all the black areas are now pushed out. If I unclick this, the black areas will be pushed in. So it looks like it's engraved in there. Push it out because whatever, that's what I want. So this is a bump node, but of course it doesn't actually give anything that we can print. It's all fake. So how do you actually make it real texture or real details? This is not texture. This is the geometry is being pushed out. So that's the subject today. I'll go back in here and I'll click this one. I'll just solo this, so that's all we're dealing with. Looks like a keep of. All right, so we'll zoom out. I'm gonna get rid of this because we don't need this. Delete. And you're gonna see that so far you don't really understand, because all we seem to have is just the color and the roughness map from before. So what's pushing this out? How is this working? Well, that is a modifier. So I'm going to make a video all about modifiers. I hinted at them a couple times, but this is what is called a displacement modifier. And what this is doing is that in this displacement modifier, I put the exact same texture we had before, and now it's actually displacing. Displace means to move. So it is moving the polygons out and in this pattern. Displace is to move. So displacing geometry means pushing the geometry in or out. If I turn this off, it's flat. If I turn it back on, it pushes those things out. Those black lines are being pushed out. So I'm going to show you how to do that. I'm going to get rid of all this, get rid of that. Okay. I didn't explain what the second modifier was for, but I'll explain that in a second. So far, all we have, and I'll just go to the blank view because we don't need to have a material preview. This is the actual geometry. So if I go to add modifier, click this, search, and add displace. So I click this displace. Now, as soon as I do that, the whole thing just gets gigantic, like a big pancake. It doesn't, it just makes what it does is it just inflates the whole thing, just pushing everything. But of course, that's not what we want. We want to push it, more in a more deliberate way. So I'm going to click this new. What this is doing is it's going to tell the node what to use for the displacement. And if I click that, also it looks super weird. Doesn't understand what's going on because we haven't put anything there yet. So to put a texture into this displacement node, tell it what to do, we have to go down to this part here, which looks like a checkerboard texture. And there's all these weird things here, and you don't really know what it is. And what you're going to do is you're going to go here where it says image. So the image, we need to load an image to tell it what to push up or down. So I'm going to select this. Already by this point, I already have this loaded into the file that I have this picture. But if it wasn't loaded, you just go open and you'd find the file on your computer, wherever that is. I don't remember where it is, but you'd find it. It's in your download folder or whatever. You'd find that and open it up. In this case, it's already on the computer, so I'm going to choose this one here. And you see when I choose it, it appears here. Now, of course, it looks insane because what happened is it's displacing it way too much. So I'm going to go back to my modifier, and you're going to see something. First of all, the strength is explaining how much it's actually pushing it out. So I'm going to put it to like, I don't know, 0.1. And you're going to notice that nothing much is happening. And it's unable to push it out in this level of detail. So look at the actual map. I'll go to the real one. It's trying to push it out in this very detailed thing, but it's having problems. The reason why it's having problems is because let's look at the actual geometry. There are not enough polygons to push out that much detail. Like here, I have to do all these little circles, but I only have one polygon. It's not able to actually do that because it's way too low poly. So what you're going to see is that in order to do this displacement properly, I can't use a low poly model. I have to make way more polygons. I have to subdivide. The way I'm going to do that is I'm going to add another modifier. And the modifier I'm going to add is called multi-resolution. So I'm going to put that actually on top here, on the top. Now nothing's happened so far, but when I click subdivide, it's going to subdivide the mesh once. When I do that, you're going to see it's going to start to be able to have a little bit more of detail. A little bit more. It still looks like a weird pie. It's still not enough polygons. So it's not enough. I have to do more subdivision. One more. Oh, it's kind of now it looks like a very detailed pie, but still not enough. Another subdivision. Starting to get there. I'm going to actually make it much less just to be sure that this is going to work. 0, 5. I think I need more subdivisions. So I'll divide it once. Oh, and now you see it's starting to be able to actually replicate that pattern. Also, what we see is that the black part is pushing in. So instead of having it being at I put it at a strength of 0.05, very light, but I have to have it flipped. So I'm actually going to do this, negative 0.05, because the whole thing has to be reversed. Now it's still much too strong. So I'm going to do negative 0.02. Oh, and it's starting to get there. It's starting to be something that we would like. Maybe I'll have it, maybe I might need one more subdivision level. Now here's a problem. You notice something. Look at the amount of polygons it took to do this. This thing is now at almost 4 million faces because it took that many to get this level of detail. Yeah, I'm going to go back and make it a little bit less. Minus 0.001. Maybe that's okay. I'm also going to change the coordinates to the UV because it was actually made on UVs, and that looks a lot better. Again, I'll explain in another video what UVs are. And minus 0.02 seem to be okay. That seems to not be so bad. Now, if I go back to the look, it's pretty good. It's maybe still too high. All right, that's not so bad. And this is actually giving me real detail. Now, I'm not going to subdivide it even more because it's going to be really nuts. I guess I could try. I'll try it. My computer might crash. We'll see. This is going to be so high in polygons. Now look at that. That's pretty nice. Again, if I go onto the mode here and if I apply this, it would be very, very, very high poly. So I'm going to just get rid of everything. What I'm going to do is this. Oh, yeah, sorry, I hit everything, so I don't know. Okay, there we go. It's at more than 2 million polygons, but you see that now if I go into the mode, you actually have this detail, and this will print. So it's the combination, just to reiterate, it's the combination of two things. First of all is the displacement modifier, which is the thing that's actually pushing up the geometry. And I loaded in this texture map so that it would know what pattern to push it up. I also played with the strength of it. In this case, I did a negative strength so that the black areas would be pushed out. And I made it very, very low. You'll see as soon as I go lower, it goes crazy. So most of the time you have to have the displacement at very low level. And the other thing that I did is I used this multi-resolution modifier to subdivide the mesh to a point where now I actually have small enough polygons that will be able to push it out. So those two things in conjunction made me have a mesh. Now, if I want to, I can go and apply this mesh. Apply this both modifiers. Now this is done, and now this piece, you're going to see the topology, there's going to be a lot of polygons as soon as I go into edit mode. Look how those are the polygons. They are absolutely tiny, but there's so many of them, and they're so small that that's why I'm able to actually push out this very intricate detail. So that's how you do it. That's one way of doing displacement in Blender. So once again, displacement is pushing or pulling actual vertices, and this is how you can get very fine detail in a model to 3D.